Hi, it's Joe Ferzoco with the Ferzoco Group here at the Jersey Shore, and I get a ton of people, lots of people, always inquiring about second homes here at the shore, and that's what we're going to talk about today: second home buying.
What are the benefits of owning a second home down here on the shore?
Oh my goodness, the benefits. Well, if it's an investment property, you have your tax write-offs and things like that. But I don't necessarily have to speak to that. That's not my realm. It's exactly what it is. It's a second home. And whether you've been coming to the shore for 5 years, 50 years, it's a second home. It's a retreat. It's your happy place. I mean, how many times I talk to people, on the phones, and we're talking about buying or selling. Like, that's my happy place. That's where I go and just get away from everything. And whether they're here every single weekend, they come down, just after Memorial Day, and they're here through the summer. That is probably the biggest benefit, I would say, of owning a second home. It's your retreat from reality. And depending on where you're coming from, sometimes it's not that far to go. You don't have to get on a plane.
That's true.
And
get to leave.
You come over a bridge, or you come down the parkway. One of the two. You pay a toll, or you get on, or you come over a bridge.
Where generally, and maybe there isn't a pattern, but where do you find that people are coming from to buy their second homes here?
It's funny. We have such a mecca of people in our area, whether it's Philadelphia, North Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, and even as far, you can go as far west as Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, and as far north as, Scranton, Wilkesboro. People come from upstate New York, Niagara Falls. I had a client last year; they were from Niagara Falls. Because again, the shore isn't like a new town, like a new area that people all of a sudden discovered, and that's where they're flocking to. They've been coming to the shore for decades. So they do come from all over. I mean, you'd be surprised if you're talking to somebody, the area code they're calling from, or just you're out taking a walk in the morning, and the license plates. When I was a kid, would be in the car traveling somewhere, and like your license plate on that car, you could literally walk up and down the street and play the same game.
Yeah. What are the key considerations for choosing the right second home for somebody?
I think that comes back to what are the amenities, what are the features and benefits that you're looking for in a second home. And you can tie in investment property. You're looking for a return. If you wanted to go down, Airbnb and VRBO. I mean, that's not that it's much different than a second home, but that's a little bit of a different area to look at. But really, when it comes to the second home, I mean, let's face it, a second home is a want to, not a have to. You don't have to be in Cincinnati in 45 days for a job transfer. This is something that I want. So what do you want? And I think that's always, if you can kind of get a game plan together of, these are the 4 or 5 things that I want in my home that I'm going to purchase. That's a good plan to have. Moving forward, this is what I want to get started. This is how many bedrooms I want. This is how many bathrooms I want. Do I want a ranch style if I'm looking at a single family? Do I mind a split level? Do I want a garage? If I'm buying a condo or a townhouse, do they allow pets? And if they allow pets, I have 2 labs. They're not little. Brewman's 110 pounds. I mean, he's a big guy. So it's like, some places they allow pets, but they only, you get a little dog like 15 to 20 pounds. That's what you're allowed. Well, that won't work for you. Mm-hmm. So, but is that, those are the amenities to which you want. Do you want a pool? Do you need an elevator if you want that? You don't want a big complex. Back to single family homes. What's the square footage? What's the age of the property that you're looking for? We can certainly get into what town do you want. I think everyone always, that's sort of their starting point. Mm-hmm. This is where I want to be. Okay, now let's kind of work backwards from where I want to be. Not too often do people really kind of stray from where they want to be.
How do the like second home prices and availability vary along the shore?
Well, they vary based on the type of market that you can be in as well. I mean, 5, 7 years ago, you had, 300, 400 condos you could choose from in, any community that you're looking at the shore. Whether it's the Wildwoods, Sea Isle, Ocean City. Then you get into single-family homes, Cape May, Stone Harbor, Avalon. The same thing. There was more of an abundance of inventory for the people to choose from, as opposed to now when you start talking about availability, and it's not just here. It's throughout. That there are some limitations when it comes to what's around. What's available for people to look at. So when you go back to that list and you have your needs and wants, your want tos. What are your? I think when you kind of put that list together as a buyer. When you start on the journey of purchasing something, these are my 4 or 5 want tos. Are there like 3 must haves? And you kind of take you can take bedrooms and bathrooms away, because a lot of that's going to depend on, the size of your family, how many people are going to be using the property and things like that. But what are some amenities that maybe you could do without? Mm-hmm. Is it a stepping stone? Like, okay, at some point I want to live up I want to live beachfront, but I want to get my foot in the door. So, I might be 2-3 blocks back from the beach. So I want all of these things in this property. However, I could do without this as long as I can get in the door, get on whatever island you're looking at, and then progressively work your way up towards the beach. That's how I first did it. It was okay, got my foot in the door, and then it just was every other year or something like that, and it was a process. I didn't have to do it right away. Mm-hmm. Some people, they have the means to be able to want to do that, but.
What are the common challenges of owning a second home, and how can they be overcome?
Well, you don't live in your second home all the time, so whether it's you're concerned about it or not concerned about it, then sometimes there's no one there. So if you're looking at a second home, whether it's an hour and a half away or 8 hours away, is it safe? Is it secure? Some areas, we do have property managers that oversee properties, even individuals, so that they always, if you have a storm coming in or anything like that, we're susceptible to lots of different types of weather, at the shore. Making sure that things are secure, especially after a storm, or that things are cleaned up, especially, after a storm. During the winter months, if it's a property that you do use on occasion, are you making sure that, water is, shut off, and things like, when you're not in the house. If you live in a condo, is your neighbor's water off? I mean, you could leave every single time and you always shut your water off. You flush a toilet or something like that. Make sure the line is drained or whatever, and your neighbor upstairs doesn't do it, and you get a phone call one day and you've got a ceiling in your living room because a pipe burst upstairs because they didn't shut their water off.
Hey.
It's just, there are just things like that. Like, the concern is, if you're in a community, are my neighbors? I'm going to say it this way, but it's because there are rules and regulations. Are my neighbors following the rules like I do? Mm-hmm. If you're required in the winter to have the heat on 55 and make sure your water's off when you're not there, are your neighbors doing that? Let's be real. Hey man, I go down, I use my place like twice a month, so that's a pain in the butt, shutting my water off every time I go down. I'm going down next weekend. how many people? I'm sure there are people out there that do that. You know, I mean, they leave their heat at 55, maybe even 60, because they do come down. I mean, nowadays you can just set the temperature on your way down, and by the time you get there, it's 68, and it's great. But how often does something like that happen, where someone's like, "Well, I come down. You know, I'm down often, so I don't have to worry about shutting my water off." You know, and that's just a small. That's just a small thing.
Like an example, yeah.
You know, I think the second home also becomes a matter of, let's not forget, the second home has to be maintained. You know, if you have a single family home and you have a single family that's your primary residence, what are your concerns as far as maintenance of the property? Well, it's the same thing in your second home. They both have roofs, they both have siding, they both have windows, heating and air conditioning, hot water heaters, like they both have them. So what, those concerns that you have for your primary, they are also the same for your secondary home too. That it has to be maintained,
So to give, like, if I had a second home out here and I wanted peace of mind, is it like insurance or something? How would I get peace of mind?
So you do have if you have a mortgage on a property, for the most part, in United Lending, they can speak to this all the time too, but you have a content insurance, like an HO6 policy, which insures the the inside contents liability of the inside of your property. So God forbid something happens, whether it's water, fire, anything like that. I mean, that certainly gives you safety, or might give you peace of mind. Again, it kind of goes back to, you have the same thing with your primary home. So I think let's remember, it's a second home. So all the concerns that you have with your current home, this is now a second home. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The only difference is that if you live in a condo, if you live in a community, you have other people that are within the same building of you that you hope also share those same concerns, having a second home. So they follow you, I guess, is the easiest way to say it. Those concerns that you have for your primary, they follow you to your second. They don't go away. They're not they're not resistant to those things.
And then to wrap this one up, with all the pros and cons, how can buyers make the most of their second home on the Jersey Shore?
Well, I think at the end, how can you make the most of your home at the Jersey Shore is your usage of it, and what is it that you're doing? Like, are you coming here with the idea that these are going to be memories? Do you have a young family that you're just starting out with, and you're going to be here for years and years and years to come, and it's just becomes generational. It's you sit there and it's 2024 and you're talking about generational, but I'm sure that when someone purchased a property in 1986 and they were thinking generational, and then we're talking to them about selling their home, and they're like, yeah, I've been here 50 years. That's generational. Like, they probably didn't think about it in 86, but they've probably had, now they have grandchildren, great-grandchildren, like, just the thing, like, it's the usage it's using your property, whether it's something like, whether it's that way, or even you just maximize it as an investment property, through rental.